Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. Now, it's time for a review of this resort. We've been talking so much about it recently, but what do I think of the room? What do we think of the resort as a whole? That's what we're talking about today, so grab yourself a drink, buckle up, we're gonna get into it. So first, let's get into some basics. Disney's Caribbean Beach is located on Walt Disney World property. It is a Walt Disney World Resort hotel. It's along the Skyliner, which means that you have access to a ton of different places really easily via this new mode of transportation. Of course, we've talked about the Skyliner in the past, and we've also talked about all of the options available to you if you're here at Disney's Caribbean Beach. Since you have the Skyliner, we focused on food, but of course with those other food options come other things to explore and other ways to spend your day, so kind of a lot available to you in that way. This resort also has really close access to two different Skyliner stations. So there's the Caribbean Beach Skyliner station, which is going to be great for anyone staying on that side of the resort, and then over toward the Riviera, we do have the Riviera Skyliner station, which is easily accessible if you're staying in an area like I am, in the Aruba section of the resort. Speaking of the Riviera, really briefly, obviously this isn't a review of the Riviera, but it is right here. It's right next to Disney's Caribbean Beach. In fact, it was built on what was once part of Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. And so you're what I'm gonna call deluxe resort adjacent. So you have access to this deluxe resort, this deluxe property, all of the dining that's available at that resort as well. Although you won't have access to the pools, but that's fine, Caribbean Beach has better pools anyway. Disney's Caribbean Beach also falls into the moderate category, which means it's not the most expensive, but it's not the most affordable resort at Walt Disney World. It sits somewhere in the middle with rooms coming in at around that $300 to $400 range, which is about a middle of the road price for a hotel room, not only here at Walt Disney World, but also elsewhere in the country. So good price, great location, lots of amenities here. But let's focus some of our attention on the room itself and walk through some of the things I thought were good and not so good about this room. Of course, I'm staying in a room that hasn't been renovated, it hasn't been updated yet, but don't let that fool you. This room is still in really great shape, and honestly, the theming is pretty great, and I don't have many things to say about the room itself. It doesn't feel outdated, it doesn't feel old. That said, with renovations, with updating happening in this resort, you may see rooms look a little bit different than they do now. Now, I'm not familiar with what those updated rooms will look like yet. I know the information is probably out there. I haven't been paying close attention to that, but nonetheless, rooms are still going to be the same size. We're still looking at the same or a similar footprint. So this is still going to give you an idea of what to expect even after the rooms have been updated. Of course, if you want us to come back and see an updated room once they're all done, tell us in the comments down below and we'll add it to the list. So like I said, this is a moderate hotel, and with moderate hotels come rooms that are slightly bigger than values, although they're not quite as big as a deluxe. Again, middle of the road. That said, this room is rather large. It's a good size, even though it has a lot to offer. So there are currently 2 queen beds in this room. Neither of them is a Murphy bed, so you don't have the ability to claim back extra space. Still feels like there's plenty of space to move around. We also have a table and 2 chairs as well as a bench in this room, so there is plenty of place to sit, plenty of place to relax, as well as space to move, and that is really great. Now, if you check out our room tour video, we go over the entire room and you can see everything that's available in this room, and you can kind of get a sense of how big it is. And there is a lot of big furniture in here, but again, I don't feel like it's cramped. There's plenty of space to move around. There's also notably plenty of space to park an ECV, wheelchair, or a stroller in this room, so that's great. Although it doesn't have features that we like to see in rooms and we've seen in the newly updated room. So for example, we don't have any space under the bed to tuck luggage away. And again, we don't have a Murphy bed, so we don't open up any additional space, but there are plenty of places to tuck your luggage away that will be out of the way, mainly in that bathroom area. There's plenty of space to tuck things in there. There's a nice shelf where you can put your bags on top as well. And while the Murphy beds that we have been seeing in new resorts do make for a lot of additional space, you really don't need it in this room. And that's a great thing, especially if you're not a huge fan of having to make the bed, pull it up, just so that you have space to function in the room. You don't need to do that. in this room, and I think that that's great. I also mentioned in the room tour as well that I liked the chairs over by the table. They're wide, they're comfortable, they're not restricting in any way, and I think that that's fantastic. Plenty of space to sit and relax, even if you don't want to sit upright and proper in your chair, and I think that that's great, especially if you're here, you're one of the theme parks, you don't always want to sit prim and proper every time you get back to your room, but you don't necessarily want to sit on the bed either. These chairs are wonderful, and so is the table. Plenty of space there, it's at a good height, a nice place to have a command center or sit down and just eat your food, whatever you want to do. That's wonderful. Now, speaking of food, I have to talk about a downside to this room, and that is that there is no microwave. Now, we don't see microwaves in every room, fair enough, but it would be great to have one in this room, and quite frankly, I think that there are spaces where you could make it work. I would love to see the ability to warm up food that you bring back to your room because you couldn't finish the massive meal that they serve over at Centertown Market. Or even if you want to bring some basics with you, we talk about this all the time, bringing things like oatmeal or microwave mac and cheese. Those are easy things to bring with you to have a snack in the room, to have breakfast or a light lunch in the room, especially if you have picky eaters or whatnot. You don't have access to that here in the room, and that's disappointing. Of course, we would love to see that, especially as the rooms are updated, but we don't expect to, unfortunately. This room does have a beverage cooler, which does the job. I do wish that it was a regular mini fridge. Those tend to be a little bit bigger. They have some more organizational options like drink holders in the door and whatnot. Again, these beverage coolers do get the job done, but we have had access to better tools than this, like a actual mini fridge that has a freezer, that has a place to hold drinks. I would have loved to see that in this room. Unfortunately, the beverage cooler is what we got. Going back to space and storage space, I do think that we have plenty of it in this room. There are plenty of drawers in the dresser. There's a place to hang clothes. There's a nice shelf up top where you can put other items as well. Of course, there are additional places to tuck things away under this sink in the bathroom, so plenty of places to put all of your necessities once you get here. Could it be better? Yes, probably. Will it be over time? More likely than not. But is it necessary to making sure that you can maximize space in this room? Not really, at least not in my opinion. Now, the bathroom is another area that is a little bit hit, a little bit miss. So we have this nice big open space where we can store some extra luggage. It has double sinks, which is great. It's nice and bright in there. It's got that makeup mirror, so you can definitely get yourself ready. The sliding doors provide privacy, and even with those sliding doors shut, there's a lot of room in that space. So I could see mom and dad both getting dressed in there together while still keeping themselves closed off from the kids who are in the rest of the room. However, the bathroom itself, where you'll find the toilet and the shower, is a bit small. For me, the thing that makes it feel small is that it has a low ceiling and the shower curtain does bow out, which makes the shower itself feel nice and big because it is rather narrow. However, it feels a little bit cramped when you have that shower curtain shut. I also felt like the door was really heavy, and it is a door that swings in and out. It's not a pocket door or anything like that, so it did feel awkward to kind of move into the bathroom, close the door. I'm being really picky on this, but this is one of those things that I tend to be picky about. Of course, everyone's going to experience this a little bit differently, so just keep that in mind. That said, once the door was closed, if the shower curtain was open, it didn't feel too tight in there. A little bit tighter than I would like in terms of trying to like dry off and change in there, but you know, that's why you have that big space outside the bathroom with the privacy of those barn doors. Theming of this room is pretty great. I do love the headboards. I do love the lamps. They're beautiful. I do love the accent colors, and the feel of the furniture does make this feel very tropical. I do enjoy that. That said, it doesn't feel the same as the Polynesian, for example. So it's a unique feel, a unique vibe all its own, and I do think that that's great. However, it is very similar to the level of theming that you'll get at one of those rooms in the Polynesian, particularly one of those rooms in the Polynesian Disney Vacation Club villas that still have that almost 70s tropical vibe, dark woods, lots of natural feeling textures, jewel tones. I do think that that's great. It does really contrast with the outside of the building that is bright and light. But that's not to say that it's dark in here. It definitely isn't. It definitely doesn't feel dark. It feels just right. It's not sterile gray and white, but it's also not so bright that you won't be able to relax in this room It's very relaxing, very chill, and we love that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about really briefly is the air conditioning. I know that it can be a little bit intimidating to see one of the old school air conditioning units that sits on the floor near the window. We don't see that all that often anymore, especially in newer hotels where we have the vents up top and we have what we're more familiar with as like a central air situation. But I want to be very clear that that shouldn't deter you from booking one of these rooms. Now, I've had the AC on the whole time that I've been here and it has been cool as a cucumber in this place. I haven't had any problems with that. Of course, there is a ceiling fan that helps move that air as well. So if you're worried about it only being cool in one section of the room, you don't have to. It is cool throughout the room, even in the bathroom area. Another thing I think is important to note about this unit itself is that unlike what you're probably familiar with these types of units where the controls are on the unit, we actually have controls on the wall. So it's the same type of system that we're seeing everywhere else at Walt Disney World. It's just that it's pumping air through this floor unit versus through air conditioning vents up on the ceiling. But again, I didn't have any issues in terms of keeping the room cool. The only downside to this unit is that it's a little bit noisy. It's rattling a little bit. So you do have this like hum in the room. But if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't think it's that big a deal because we do have the Skyliner right outside and you can hear the hum from the Skyliner as well. So it's not quiet in this room by any means in terms of having like absolute silence, but you do have these ambient sounds that are constantly going in this room. And I say that like that because I want to be very clear that this isn't noise. This isn't a racket. It's not like you have to worry too much about being jostled awake by these sounds. That's not what you're going to experience in this room, but it is white noise that you are experiencing during your entire time in here. And I also noticed that you get that from the fan in the bathroom as well, which because it is on a motion sensor seems to be continuously kicking on. It's actually not on right now, but every once in a while, if you're moving throughout the room, it will kick on. And so you get that sound, you get this sound, you get the hum from the Skyliner. Again, not a bad thing, but something that you should be aware of. In terms of other noise, I didn't have any problems with this room. And I don't know if it's because of all that ambient sound, all that white noise, but I didn't really hear anyone walking by my room. I didn't hear any racket. Of course, every once in a while, you'll hear people talking as they walk by your room, but honestly, it wasn't that loud. I didn't have any problems. It didn't jostle me awake. The only thing that was very loud in this room, I'm currently in the Aruba section of the resort, is that you have fireworks from Epcot happening like right outside your window. And while I couldn't see them from my window, we did go and walk down the hall and we had this beautiful view of Epcot Forever because it's right there. So yes, it is arguably a fireworks view right here from this section of the resort, which for your reference is Building 55. I am right next to the Skyliner for Disney's Riviera Resort. Now, in terms of fireworks, you're not far from Epcot no matter where you are at this resort. So you should expect to hear firework noise in the evenings from Epcot. Of course, the closer you are to Epcot, that's gonna be near the Riviera Skyliner station area, the louder it's gonna be. Move farther away over by the Spyglass Grill, it's probably not going to be as loud, but you're still going to hear it. So it's important to note that and be aware of the fact that that is something you will experience if you're staying here at this resort. Location-wise, as I mentioned, just as a resort in general, great location. We've talked about that at length, so I'm not going to go into that again, but here in Building 55 in the Aruba section of the resort, it's actually a perfect location as far as I'm concerned. This building is right next to the Skyliner station. It's probably about a 3-minute walk. We can walk over to the Riviera, enjoy everything that they have to offer with the exception of the pools, but that's not a big deal because we have a pool right here by us as well and the beach. So everything that you might want to do, everything that you might want to see at this resort, just enjoy at this resort, is right here next to Building 55. Of course, this isn't the only building where you'll experience that, but it's the building I'm in, so that's what I'm telling you about. And lastly, we have to talk a little bit about the bus situation here. Now, we have a separate video all about transportation here at Disney's Caribbean Beach, but if you're not using the Skyliner, you're using a bus, and you access that bus via a bus stop that is out beyond the parking lot. So basically this resort is all of the rooms inside, they're surrounded by a parking lot, and then there's a road that surrounds that. The bus stop is going to be at that road. And there are multiple bus stops at this resort, so you don't have to walk all the way to the lobby, for example, in order to catch the bus. You just walk to the bus stop nearest you. Quite frankly, I don't think that it's much of a walk. I've walked much farther to get to a bus. You just have to know where the bus stop is for you. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that, checking a map, checking your My Disney Experience app when you get here so you don't find yourself wandering around too much just trying to look for a bus. This resort is big, so you can run yourself into trouble if you find yourself doing that. But also keep in mind this resort does have an internal bus as well. So if you don't want to be walking to and from different parts of the resort, you can get on that internal bus and get yourself where you want to go. Beyond that, I don't really have much else to say about this room. I did find that it was comfortable and quiet, like I mentioned. I felt like there was plenty of space. I felt like the amenities were great. Lots to do here, great pool, great dining options. Of course, there are little things we could nitpick about. The carpet, for example. Not everyone loves carpet. Quite frankly, I think it helps keep the sound down, so that's great. We could talk about how some areas of the room weren't dusted as well as I would have liked to see. There was a cobweb that had a bug in it in the room, but that's the type of thing that happens from time to time. Not every location can be perfect all the time, and this is just one example of that. But the worst thing about this stay, I will have to say, was the service over at Banana Cabana. That is their kind of pool bar, outdoor bar area. We went over there trying to get some drinks, and the system is just weird. We felt ignored by staff. It definitely wasn't a great experience. In fact, we didn't even get drinks. We just turned around and left because we were waiting way too long and being ignored way too often. So that was our experience there, but maybe we'll have to come back and try it out some other time and see if we have a different experience. It might have just been this day. So let us know if you want to see that, and let us know what your thoughts are. If you've ever been to Banana Cabana, what was your experience like? But beyond that, we had a great time at this resort. We do recommend it. It definitely doesn't have some of the problems that we've heard people say that it has. People have talked about how it smells musty in the rooms. We definitely did not experience that at all. It has been fresh and clean every single time we've walked in the room. In fact, we were keeping a nose out for that, and we found it to be great. No problems at all. So I'm not entirely sure what people are experiencing, but that wasn't what we experienced at this resort. But again, that was our experience, and we want to hear what yours was. So let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this resort. Have you stayed here? Did you enjoy your stay? Would you stay here because you like some of what you saw? Put it all in the comments down below. We would love to hear your thoughts on this. Of course, if you enjoyed this review and anything else we have done here on the channel, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any more about this resort, Walt Disney World, traveling throughout Central Florida, and all the resort tours that we're going to be doing coming up. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we hope to see you in the next one. Bye.